So today I am going to do a 5-minute makeup for mums video. I put some feelers out on what people might like to see, and I have quite a few friends that are mums and just don't have the time in the morning to dedicate to a full face of makeup. So I'm just going to run through a 5-minute makeup routine just for your everyday, just running out, just so that you have some makeup on and you feel a bit better and you look a bit more glowy and awake, mostly. And by all means you can add to this if you've got a bit of extra time. There's steps that you could add to this to make it more of a day to night look. With that, let's get into the tutorial. So I actually did time myself and do this makeup to prove that I can do it in 5 minutes, and I managed to do it. I think it was in 5 minutes and 17 seconds. Obviously it will be a bit slower today because I'm going to talk through it whilst I do it, but it is definitely a 5-minute tutorial. I've cleansed my skin, toned it, and just put moisturiser on so my skin's all fresh and dewy. First step, I'm just going to pop a bit of primer on. You could skip this if you have really great skin. I have quite enlarged pores around my T-zone, so I'm just going to use a pore filling one. It's my DHC, what's this called? Velvet Skin Coat. It's actually a Japanese brand. I got it when I trained to do makeup in London, and I just really like it. It's just very pore filling. It's very similar to the Porefessional, or most silicone based primers, but I'm just going to take a little bit and dabble it on my T-zone area just to fill in those pores so that when I put anything on top of it, it will just sit a bit nicer. Then I'm going to go in with my foundation. If you've got nice skin, if you don't have any problem areas that you want to address, you could skip foundation if your skin's really nice, or you could just do a tinted moisturiser or just like a really light based foundation just to give yourself a bit of a even skin tone, just to perfect your skin a little bit. I have still some problem skin, so I'm going to go in with my Hourglass Vanish stick in Shell. This is my favourite foundation. I really rate these. They're not cheap. You can buy them from Space NK, and it's just a cream stick, but it's probably my most natural foundation that I have just because it melts into your skin and it's very skin-like. So I'd recommend these. I really like them. So I'm just going to layer it around my face, just where I want some coverage. I'm putting a fair bit on just because. Then I'm going to take my clean. This is a Real Techniques 301. It's just a really wide stippling brush, but it's quite well densely packed and it's got a rounded top. I really like this for blending out cream foundations and bronzers. I don't know if it was limited edition, I'm not sure, but a brush like this, like a tightly packed stippling, I think is really nice for creams. So I'm just going to take that and swirl and work in. Get my mirror. Work in the foundation that I've just laid down. Remember to get in all the little nooks and crannies. You could use a beauty blender. You know, if you're using just a tinted moisturiser, you could just use your hands. That's fine. Oh, you'll notice I finally addressed my brows. So I'm less of a Yeti, which is a nice feeling. Okay, so second step, I'm going to pop on a tiny bit of concealer just where I have my sallow dark under eye bags, which probably a lot of people suffer with. I'm using my Nars Soft Matte Complete Concealer just because I've used a cream base. I want to stay with a cream concealer because it will sit a bit nicer and it will all mash in together quite nicely because it's the same textures. Mine's in light 2.5 Creme Brulee. So I'm just going to take it on my finger and I'm just going to pat it on my under eye area and blend it down. I'm also going to take a little bit and put it on my eyelid, just in place of a primer, just to even the skin tone, because I have some veins that really show up on my eyelid. And also we're going to do a really light colour on the eyes later, so it will just help prep it as a base. You don't need to be neat with it, just throw it on. You can just use the residue on your finger which is left from blending out your under eye concealer. Yeah. Cool. Now I'm going to take my loose setting powder. You can use a pressed powder if you prefer. The only thing I do find with those is sometimes if they're not translucent loose ones, if you use a pressed coloured one, it will oxidise your concealer and foundation a little, which basically just means it kind of deepens the shade, which obviously for your under eyes you don't want because you want them brightened. But you can use whatever you prefer, whatever you've used and you like in the past. I'm going to take my Hourglass Hydra Veil powder. Same brand as my foundation, it's just one I really like. I'm going to take my Real Techniques B02, just like a little tapered fluffy brush, and I'm just going to take some of the powder and pat under my eyes and on the lid where we put the concealer, just to set it so that we don't get any movement or creasing. Cool. Then I'm just going to switch to my big belly brush. My big powder brush is just another Real Techniques one, and I'm going to take the powder again and just set the face. So just dab it everywhere, just to stop any creasing, any movement, and set it down so it will last longer for you through the day. So I'm going to use different brushes now, but one thing you can do, especially if you're on the go and you don't really have the time, or the money necessarily to have a massive brush collection, you can easily just use one brush for everything. So this big powder brush that I have, which is my Real Techniques one, you could use this for powdering your face, for the under eyes as long as you get up close enough, for your bronzer, for your blusher. You can use this as a one-fits-all kind of thing. Brushes aren't made for one purpose, you can use them for whatever you want. The only thing I'd say is if you do that, make sure you're keeping them clean, because obviously if you douse it in bronzer and then the next day go to set your under eyes, you'll end up looking funky. The next step is I'm going to bronze. Now I'm going to use my Charlotte Tilbury Filmstar Bronze and Glow. I've had this a long time. You can tell that I really like it. It's very used, but it's basically just a really nice cool tone bronzer and then a lovely champagne highlighter. If your makeup collection isn't extensive, if you don't have a million of everything because you don't want to, that's fine, but it might be a good idea to get sets of things, so blushes and bronzers, or bronzers and highlighters, just so you've got one palette to grab and it will do everything that you need. So I'm going to use this bronzer because I want a bit of a cooler toned one. I'm going to take my Real Techniques retractable kabuki, which is nice and angled, so it's really good for bronzing to get on the cheekbones. And I'm going to take my bronzing shade and I'm just going to place it and change mirrors. Just going to place it along my cheekbone and blend it up. You don't need to be neat, you don't need to be pristine. You just want to warm up your face so you look a bit healthier. I think bronzing is an important step. If you saw my last video, you'll know that I like to take mine around over my nose, just because I think it looks a bit more natural and it gives you that kind of sun-kissed glow. So you can see the difference from doing it from one side to the other. If you kind of skip bronzing, I do think that's when you look a bit ill. A lot of people will just chuck a foundation on because they think that's, you know, all you kind of need, and then they don't really feel like their makeup looks very good. It's because you've only got that one dimension to your face, so your skin looks so flat. There's no warmth to it, so you want to bronze up so that your skin doesn't look all one shade, all like this flat kind of pale blob. Okay, so then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the same palette and I'm going to grab my Morphe 504. I really like this brush. This is a really big fluffy brush, which is brilliant for transition shades and blending out. I'm going to take the same bronzer and just coat my brush in it, and then I'm just going to run it, again if you saw my last video, just where a transition would sit, so just above my crease, into my socket, under my brow bone. I'm not going to be pretty with it. I'm not trying to be really detailed. I'm just throwing down this bronzer. And it will just, you'll see, just by putting it on that kind of outer V, up into your crease and above, just under your brow bone, it will just lift your eye a bit and it will give the illusion a bit of a bigger eye. It looks like you've got more finished makeup on. But all you're doing is grabbing the bronzer that you used on your face and just in your crease and in your outer V of your eye. And it will make a big difference. Just makes you look like you've tried a lot more and you haven't really done much. And a big fluffy brush is good for this just because it will blend nicely, and you can be a bit messier with it, but it won't look like you've been sloppy. So this is an optional add-on, you don't need to do this at all, but because I have my dual palette and I have my highlighter there, all I'm going to do, if you have a highlighter, it's a nice step to do, I think it makes a big difference, is just take some on my finger and just put it on my inner corner of my eye and just kind of drag it in a little bit, but just place it in that inner corner. Because I just think it really helps catch the light and it helps bring attention to the inside, and it makes your eye look bigger. So if you've got that kind of contour shade in the outer and then that highlight on the inner, it's just going to give you the illusion of a bigger eye. You can also just run a tiny bit on the Cupid's bow if you want. I don't always use highlighter on my cheeks because I don't like it all the time. Okay, now I'm gonna pop some blusher on the cheeks. Again, complete preference on what colour you want to use, on what blushes you like. I just want a real flush of colour just to look a bit more awake. So I'm going to use, I've got my little mini one, my Dandelion by Benefit. You can see it. This is really nice, just really pale, kind of petal pink. So I'm going to take it on my B02, the same one that I used to dust under my eyes. Again, you could use the same big fluffy brush if you wanted to. You could use a different brush. You know, you can use whichever one you want. And I'm just going to really lightly pop it just up the cheekbone a little bit and onto the apple. Okay, so next step, I'm going to curl my lashes and put my mascara on. I just have some lash curlers that I bought from TK Maxx. They don't have to be crazy expensive. The only thing you want to watch if you're using lash curlers is that rubber band. If you've had them for a while and it starts to get really indented, that's when it will damage your lashes. So just replace the band if you can, or replace the whole lash curlers if they only cost you £5–6. Just because you want it to always have the pressure there, but you don't want it to be doing any damage. You don't want it to be completely indented. So yeah, I'm just going to curl my lashes and then pop some mascara on. For mascara today, I'm just going to use my Maybelline, the Falsies Black Drama one. It's just one that I have in my drawer. I think I've used it before. I do quite like it. It's got the rounded barrel wand, which I'm not opposed to. Okay, so that is it for the 5-minute tutorial. As I said, obviously I've taken a bit longer because I've been explaining it whilst I've been going, but if you master these steps, if you're just doing the steps as you go, it does take 5 minutes. I did it, so I know that. So I also timed myself with the bit extra of just putting some brow gel and lipstick on, and I think I hit 6 minutes 20. So if you have 6 minutes 20 instead of 5 minutes 17, it also makes a big difference just to pop on some eyebrow, I'll show you, but just to pop on some eyebrow gel and lipstick. So the brow gel that I really like is just this Gimme Brow from Benefit. It's a really nice one. It's made to build up the hair in your eyebrow, and it's just got little fibres in it which will cling to your hairs and just gives the illusion of a bit of a fuller brow. So you just use the wand and I just kind of flick backwards through the hairs to get all the product dispensed. and then just brush it the way that you want to. And that's it. Oops. A bit of a darker brow just helps bring attention to your eye area, and it really frames your face. I'm going to take my Milani lipstick in Dulce Caramelo. It's just a really nice kind of warm nude with a bit of a sheen to it. And I'm just going to I forget they smell really good. Just going to throw it on. But I think just adding lipstick on to the end of your makeup routine just makes you look a bit more finished, and it looks like you spent a lot longer on your makeup than you necessarily have. So that's the finished look. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it helps. You can tweak it however you want to. You can skip concealer if you don't have massive bags like me. You can change your foundation. You can skip foundation. You know, you could just do mascara and lipstick if you're in a real rush. But it's just a little tutorial that hopefully you found helpful, that I think will just give you that lovely, quick, easy, in and out the house, everyday makeup, just so you look a little bit more glowy and awake and ready for the day, and less haggard if you have children. Which I don't, by the way, disclaimer, I don't have kids. I have a puppy who feels like one, but I do have lots of friends with children and I feel their pain. But I don't need that right now. So I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know if there's any other videos you'd like to see in the future, and make sure that you subscribe. Press the bell so you get notifications for my next ones that are coming up, and hopefully I will see you all soon. Thanks, bye! Raggedy today. Oh well.